Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, finally I am reviewing the 4 Futurama TV movies. And, still in celebration of the return of Futurama. So of course, we're starting with Bender's Big Score. Yes, the first of the 4 Futurama TV movies. And also, the 4 Futurama TV movies, they were split in 4 parts, and also, a part of season 6. And if you guys remember, when I reviewed Futurama from, seasons 1 to 10, I stated that, I wasn't going to talk that much about, the 4 Futurama TV movies and the fact that, they're in 4 parts and a part of season 6, because, I wanted to save them for their own separate reviews, which is what you're seeing right now. So, yes. So with Bender's Big Score, I gotta say, when I first watched this, and I remember I was watching Futurama back when Netflix had it on their platform, and the first time I watched Bender's Big Score, I didn't know at first that, this was like a TV movie, and I'm not kidding, because when I was watching it, I was like, hey, is this gonna end? But then I realized, oh, this is a TV movie, so I have no doubt that there would be others that have had that experience, you get my point. But anyways, I'll go ahead and read the description / the story. Planet Express sees a hostile takeover when Bender falls into the hands of criminals where he is used to fulfill their schemes. So I tell ya, there is so much that happens in Bender's Big Score. I guess at first it could be a bit difficult to watch. Well, because there is a lot of time traveling in this. Well, because, it opens with, the introduction of the Planet Express crew, and not to mention, when Bender's Big Score happened, this was when, Futurama made a comeback, because in the early 2000s, the show was canceled, but it wasn't until in the late 2000s they came back, starting with 4 TV movies. So basically, Farnsworth tells them that they had been fired approximately about 2 years ago by the Fox Board of Directors. A nod, of course, to when Fox, they canceled Futurama. But Farnsworth, good news, everyone! He receives news that, they're back in business. And they celebrate, they have a party, and at one point, Hermes, he has them use, as he calls them, sabers, but, they're swords, to do some limboing. And because Hermes, he is a professional, limbo performer, that's his talent and what he can do. He succeeds. Well, they're using one saber. When he limbos and it gets lower and lower, he kind of, cuts himself. Not too bad. But when he's leaning on the wall, and where the other saber is, literally cuts his head off. So, oh my gosh. But, he's alive. Well, and that's because in that time, those who have their heads cut off, they survive, and thus, their heads in tanks. Of course, we all know with the celebrities that sometimes appear in Futurama, their heads are in tanks. So afterwards, Hermes, he's without a body for a while, and golly, because his wife, I think it's, isn't it, yeah, okay, La Barbara Conrad, voiced by Don Lewis. Basically, she tells her husband that, their son needs a daddy, how she says it, and, he has a father, but, what's her problem? Seriously, something with La Barbara that just, oh my gosh, what is with her? And basically, because, go for, I think it's, yeah, Ethan Bubblegum Tate. I'm pretty sure that's him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Also voiced by Phil Lamar. Like, he's a professional Olympic guy, and he like steps in and becomes the daddy for Herms and La Barbara. And also at the hospital, and because they took Hermes in with his body, we get the introduction of who was it? Yeah, Lars Fillmore, being voiced by Billy West. And there's something about Lars, like, if anybody who would be watching Bender's Big Score for the first time would think of this. I don't think I thought of this the first time I watched it, but up until the end, you realize, holy cow, what a twist. But until I get to that. So basically, like, Lars is kind of flirting with Leela, and Leela starts to flirt back, and Fry, because he's not liking this, and he gets jealous. Then at one point, Farnsworth tells the Planet Express crew that they have a delivery to take at the Nude Beach Planet. And basically, yeah, when they arrive, they have to be totally stripped and naked and so on. Even Zoidberg, like, he has to, like, get out of his, like, skin or something. He's like, oh, Jello or whatever. And at one point, we see on Fry's butt cheek that he has a tattoo of Bender. And you wonder, since when did he get a tattoo of Bender? But something about that tattoo. And at one point, on the Nude Beach Planet, these three aliens, did they ever say the name of their species? Maybe, but I forgot. But basically, they ask the Planet Express crew for their information, their email, and stuff like that. Like, for Bender, like, he would be able to watch robot porn, I guess, and Zoidberg, he would become king. But it turns out that these three aliens, they're scammers. And even Farnsworth falls for this, He gives them their email and so on, and wouldn't you know it, the three scammer aliens, they now own Planet Express, and now the Planet Express crew now works for them. And for Bender, well, he's under their mind control technically, because, well, he is a robot, and, he hacked into, like, the stuff that they gave him and watching robot porn, etc., etc. And his eyes kind of, wonky, so the best I can describe. And basically at one point, Lars, he shows up again, and still helping out with Herms. And Lars at one point asked Leela out, she accepted, and and then at one point, the three scammer aliens, that's what I'm calling them, because that's what they are, they discover that Fry's tattoo of Bender actually has a code in one of Bender's eyes. And Nibbler, because we see that Nibbler is getting uncomfortable with the three scammer aliens, and it's in Bender's score, where we for the first time hear Nibbler talk. And Nibbler being voiced by Frank Welker. Who else but a perfect choice to voice Nibbler. And basically, the scammer aliens, they force Bender to read the code that's on Fry's tattoo of Bender on his butt cheek, even threatening to kill Scruffy the janitor. Bender's like, pardon my French, but, he says, "Who the hell's that?" "I'm Scruffy the janitor." "Hold on, Scruffy!" And he reads the codes. It's like 011111000, it's a lot of zeros and ones. And that basically brings in all the way out from the solar system to Earth and to the Planet Express building, that it's like a portal or something like that. Takes you back in time. And Nibbler, because, he steps in, he confronts the three scammer aliens, and calling up his species, the Nibblins. I think I'm a hair off from, like, what the name is of Nibbler's alien species, but I'm close. Coming in to take on the three aliens, but of course they lose, and not to mention, they have tiny ships, and the three scammer aliens, they just whack them, and, as Nibbler says, "We're doomed!" And basically, throughout a little bit in this film, the three scammer aliens have Bender go back in time and steal a lot of artifacts, like from the past and, present, etc. Well, basically from the past, like Egypt, you name it. And, like, the three scammer aliens becoming rich with that stuff. And even, like, say, with, more stuff between Lars and Leela, and Fry just being more upset and depressed. And it's at this point where Fry, he's had enough of living in the future, and he reads the code, and even, like, say, the three scammer aliens, they were going to, like, basically kill Fry for nobody to use the code that's on his tattoo of Bender, but they could have just erased it off, but no, for them, they just decided to just kill him, literally. But Fry, he luckily escapes by reading out the code, and he travels back to where he was before he was frozen in the year 2000. But it's where that a couple of times, and I was trying to keep up with this, Sometimes it can be a little bit confusing to keep up with, stuff that has to do with time traveling, like one character is there, over there. You get my point, Basically, because the scammer aliens, they have Bender go back to where Fry went to execute Fry. And, of course, we get a Terminator reference. It's obvious because, well, Bender, he grabs a weapon and he puts on shades. Him having shades, obviously a Terminator reference. I don't think he didn't even say a line from Terminator, not like... No, I think he did. I think he said something like, I'll be back. Something like that, Because, again, it's obvious that he would have to say a Terminator line. So, like, hasta la vista, baby, or I'll be back. Two of the most famous lines from Terminator. So with Bender going back in time, he's this close to killing Fry, but then at one point, actually where he showed up, he showed up at the moment where, well, Fry was already in the frozen container, and he has to go to the bathroom. Then he travels back 19 seconds ago and tells his other self that, I'm you from 19 seconds later. You wait here. I'm going to go use the bathroom. Wait for Fry. Fry does show up, and one of the two Benders, accidentally gets in one of the frozen containers. I think it's that one that where he stays behind while... the other Bender goes to the bathroom. So that Bender, he gets in the container, frozen, set to, years into the 3000s, and, Fry, he gets out of there, and Bender coming out of the bathroom, and, he fails to kill Fry. And while he's there, I think it's, throughout 12 years that he remains in the past to try and find and execute Bender, even when at one point, Bender, finds, Fry's family relatives, his brother, and we get the appearance of, Fry's brother's son, Fry's, little nephew, and basically, Fry had been at the North Pole, and Bender's like, oh, I was just there. And then he finally finds Fry. He now has a beard, and he goes back to Joe's Pizza. I think Joe's Pizza, the pizza place, Bender does so. He fires on the pizza place, and also it causes Seymour, the dog, to be fossilized. That explains how Seymour got fossilized. It's pretty funny. And of course, Bender, he feels really guilty about this. And when he travels back to his time, in the future, telling the three scammer aliens that, mission accomplished, and, he's upset. And, we then see the Planet Express crew having a little funeral ceremony for Fry. But then at one point, Fry, he literally out of nowhere shows up. He's all right. Well, and it turns out that Fry, at one point, used, the code, to travel in time, because he basically, wanted to eat pizza, and he went back to, that laboratory with the containers, and the pizza was cold, but then he traveled back, a little bit early where the pizza was still warm, and then he meets with, his other self, hours earlier. And so one of the Fries, the one who traveled, early to, eat the free pizza, where it was warm, gets in the same tube that, his other self is, and when it happens, like the main Fry wakes up and he's in the future on New Year's Eve. Well, the other Fry, he remains in the tube and sets the dial to where he shows up and to meet up with the Plant Express crew, where they have their funeral service of Fry. So, you get my point. And again, for me, a little bit difficult to try and keep up with, say, the two Fries and two Benders. You get my point. I'm sure you guys, some of you have been there too. Because time travel, you gotta focus. I mean, at least, I've paid attention very well to, say, what Back to the Future, Doctor Who, and Family Guy have done. So, sometimes it could be easy, sometimes it could be difficult, with time travel. So, golly, even what Bruce Banner said in Endgame. So, your future becomes your blah, 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 blah. Anyways. And so, yeah, and that's when, a little bit later, the Planet Express crew, they're basically out of a job. The three scammer aliens, they fired them, they boot them out, and they have nowhere else to go. I think the same thing happened to Lars, because I tell you, what the three scammer aliens do later on, they go way too far, just how evil they are and what big jerks they are. But also, another very important thing with Fry, one of the Fries in the past, in the early 2000s, well, we see that, he starts to have a normal life, in present time in the early 2000s. He now lives at the pizza place, and that's when, at one point, he discovers on TV that there's this narwhal, this female narwhal named Lilu. I think I got that right. The name sounds very similar to, say, Leela. It's obvious. And Lilu, Fry feels really bad for this narwhal, and he wants to help and be with Lilu, and so he applies working at the aquatic place, and hanging out and being with Lilu, and very emotional, I should say, because for that Fry and his attachment to that female narwhal, and back into the future, well, still, because, they're out of a job and they're out in the streets trying to keep warm. And not to mention, at one point, it's winter time, and we get the appearance of Robot Santa. Yeah, Robot Santa appears in Bender's Big Score. And by the way, there are a couple of song numbers in Futurama. And sometimes the show would have some musical numbers, and there are a few in this TV movie. So... And during that song, at one point, Lars asked Leela to marry him. And of course she accepts. Golly, this hits Fry really hard. Well, because, when the wedding happens, they're about to be married. And, well, even at one point, for Hermes, because, as I said, Hermes, he lost his body. He doesn't have a body for a little while, but he does get it back. His head is attached back to his body thanks to Zoidberg, but the problem is his body's backwards. His head's backwards, etc. And at the wedding, Lars and Leela's wedding, well, something happens because they're signing the papers, because what couples would do at weddings. Leela's pen that she's using, it's out of ink, and at one point, she kind of moves her hand and hits Hermes, and he slips, and, the chandelier hits him. His head is decapitated from the body, and just, oh my gosh, poor Hermes. And again, with his wife LaBarbara, oh my gosh. Just, again, so much happening in this. And not to mention, after what happens to Hermes, Lars can't take this, and he calls off the wedding. And, of course, Leela is heartbroken. But then, what happens next? The three scammer aliens have basically banished everybody from Earth. Like, they banished them from the planet. Now they have to move to other planets. And for the Planet Express crew and how many people they can bring on board the Planet Express ship, they move to Neptune. And actually, Neptune, I almost forgot that Neptune is where Robot Santa lives. But for Robot Santa, he got scammed as well by the three, scammer aliens. Poor Robot Santa. Now he knows how it feels. And he joins the Planet Express crew because the Planet Express crew, Robot Santa, the people of Earth, and of course, the president of Earth, Nixon, they are going to put their foots down, take a stand, and take on those three aliens. Even say Nixon at one point recommended that they should use golden Death Stars, but somehow the three scammer aliens, they got a hold of the golden Death Stars. And Nixon basically says to everybody that whom shall be in command of the fleet? Who else than Zach Bradigan? Of course, Zach Bradigan. But at one point, his ship gets destroyed by one of the golden Death Stars, and now Leela is in charge, rightfully so. Even Lars, he joined in the fleet, and so they take on the three scammer aliens. They're controlling the golden Death Stars, they have video game controllers, as we see, and they're destroying the golden Death Stars, but not enough is happening. They're really not winning. But that's when Hermes, still in a jar, steps in, and he so willingly, does so by taking on the golden Death Stars by basically hooking up cords to the container. And basically Hermes has complete control of all the ship's photon torpedoes and lasers, and firing straight at the golden Death Stars and succeeding. And of course, LaBarbara, is happy and, still, of course, loving her husband. And so, basically, because, Ethan Bubblegum, he's defeated. So, goodbye, jerk. And so, and the three scammer aliens, they're not done because they have the Doomsday device that Professor Farnsworth has. But luckily enough, Bender actually has the real Doomsday device. He slipped in a fake Doomsday device, and they use the actual Doomsday device to literally obliterate the three scammer aliens. And yep, they are defeated once and for all. And so, everybody's back on Earth. Farnsworth now has Planet Express back to himself, owning the company, and, the Planet Express crew having their jobs back. And Bender, because he's hailed as a hero, and giving the speech of, slipping in the Doomsday device and so on, even when he was, controlled by the three scammer aliens. But of course, at one point he did break free, of course. And Fry, there's one moment where, Fry, he feels really bad for Leela, and he decided to bring Leela and Lars back together at, that building, the containers. I keep forgetting the name of that building, but you know what I'm talking about. But at one point, one of the three scammer aliens survived, and he's not done, and, he wants that code, that's on the tattoo of the tattoo Bender, thinking that, we think that Fry still has it, he thinks that, that he's talking to him, but, basically earlier, the Planet Express crew removed Fry's Bender tattoo, and with the code, but the one scammer alien is not talking to Fry, he's talking to Lars. Apparently Lars has the Bender tattoo, and it's just Well, and to the audience, like, what? Why would he have the tattoo? He never had the tattoo. But that's when Lars, he activates the one container where another bender, and as I mentioned, accidentally got into the container and froze. And basically, that bender, he self-destruct because, well, Lars, he pinned the one scammer alien to the floor, and, they both get killed from the one bender's self-destruct. And, Lars, he of course saved the day, but he died, being a hero. So, yeah. And we of course see that Lars, he has the Bender tattoo with the code. And we find out because, with what happens with, the other Fry in the past, in the early 2000s, and I think it was up to, the year 2008, where, because, Fry, he was with the narwhal, Lilu, and at one point out in the North Pole, Lilu, falls in love with a male narwhal, and Fry, he sadly lets go of Lilu, and, Fry, he returns back home and, making his way back to the pizza place, and where Bender shows up, and blowing up the pizza place, well, Fry, he did survive that, although his hair was burned off, and only his beard remained, and his vocal cords, like, it kind of damaged his vocal cords, like, like this and so on. It turns out that Fry was Lars all the time. That's the twist. Like, yeah, definitely, like, again, like, for anybody watching Bender's Big Score for the first time, just, like, mind blown by this. And, of course, Fry, now going by Lars, going to one of the containers. He gets in the container where his ex-girlfriend is. If anybody remembers that episode from Futurama where Fry's ex-girlfriend, Michelle, she was in one of the containers and met with Fry, etc. And not to mention, we get a little bit of Michelle in this film. So even when Bender had Michelle at gunpoint, so yeah. And with Lars, he arrives at his destination in the future, applying for a job at the head museum, and even like, Fry, as Lars, he even left a video recording, and it's played at Lars' funeral service. And actually, at one point, Bender, he's in a suit, and because, at the funeral service, he takes the Bender tattoo, the tattoo of himself, back in time to put on Fry's butt cheek, because, Nibbler said that, to restore the timeline and to set it right, someone has to take the tattoo of Bender back to Fry in the past, And actually, because, we see that earlier in the film, that Bender, in a suit, had shown up and had interacted with, like, the other Benders and Fries, And, the ending to the film, well, because when Bender comes back, he succeeds, but he also met up with a bajillion other versions of himself, like one dressed up as a king, a pirate, I think a knight, and it causes like a rip in the universe, and Nibbler is like, everybody, let's get out of this universe, blah, 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 like Nibbler disappears, and, with like a crack breaking in space, and, Bender gets the last line saying, well, we're boned. And that's how the movie ends. Like, what a heck of a way to end it off right there. But of course, we all know that afterwards, everything's okay, apparently, so oh well. Bender's Big Score. I tell you, for this being the first of the 4 Futurama TV movies, it was good and a great comeback for the characters of Futurama, and the show itself. But as I said, so much happening in this film, I tell you, because a lot of time traveling and a lot of, like, Benders and Fries here and there. And as I said, like, for me, a bit difficult to follow and catch up with a lot of Benders and Fries here and there and where they're at in the past and future. You get my point. But overall, Bender's Big Score is entertaining, hilarious, a couple of emotional stuff here and there. Just, yeah, overall, it's really good. And I'm giving Bender's Big Score 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Bender's Big Score. And what about you guys? What did you think of Bender's Big Score itself? And what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Bender's Big Score, the first of the 4 Futurama TV movies. More review videos coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And of course, continuing on, reviewing the Futurama TV movies. 1 down, 3 to go. And you know what's next? The Beast with a Billion Backs. Stay tuned for that later tonight. Take care, and peace out.